especially on a beautiful sunny day. We really appreciate it. We do a mix of Zoom and in-person. We really enjoy the in-person. And I know we've just about got the balance right, because when we're doing an in-person meeting, the Zoom people send me emails to say, why aren't we doing it on Zoom? And when we're doing it on Zoom, the in-person people send me emails to say we should be doing it, you know. Anyway, thank you all for coming. First, we really want to thank Pastor Eric and the Epic Life Church. Thank you for being so generous with your space. Nathaniel, thank you very much. We really appreciate this. They're very generous. I do want to tell you that for the first time, we are going to both video and audio record the in-person meetings. So we will post it on our YouTube channel. You will be able to watch it and tell your friends. That does mean that if you choose to stand up and turn that way, they can record you. So if you don't want to be recorded, just keep your face forward and you'll be fine. We also do need to use the microphones. So Susan is going to wander the audience, and we're going to hope that we can capture your questions on microphone. If it's inconvenient to do that, the speakers know that they must repeat the question. So I want to introduce our current board members first. You always see me, I always tell you, but our current board members are also here, and they include Nancy Rauhauser, Melinda, God, isn't that great when you forget people's names? Melinda Jacobson, Diane Vincent, there you are. You always have to be different. Nancy Rauhauser and Cheryl Bishop, I think, is not here yet. So thank you very much. We also have some elected officials. Representative Lauren Davis is here. Thank you. She spoke to us in January, if you recall. Did Senator Solomon get here? I haven't seen him. He may be showing up in just a little bit, so we appreciate that. We also have from District 4 Council Member Maritza Rivera. I'm going to wave your hand. Thank you. And I think Wendy Sykes is also here, is she? No, not tonight. Okay, well, thank you. And from District 5, Councilmember Kathy Moore. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And her legislative liaison, Henry Pollitt, is here. Thank you, Henry. Are there any other elected officials that I've missed? Yes? Oh, Joel, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in. Joel is with Dan Strauss's. Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Okay, we do have to do a small piece of business before we dive into the rest of our agenda, and that is our officer elections. They occur in June. We close the nominations in May, and it will not probably surprise any of you that nobody stepped up to run for either president or vice president other than Susan and me. So that means we don't actually have to vote. We do what's called an acclamation under the Robert's Rules of Order. So when I tell you that, I ran unopposed and that means that I got elected, I need you now to go, yay, and clap your hands. Thank you very much. Susan, would you stand up for 1 second? So Susan ran unopposed, and under the rules, you need to now give her an acclamation to, there we are. Okay. And we also have a wonderful board, two of whom are rolling off. Andy Purr has been with us for many years, and she's decided not to run again, so she is rolling off the board. Cheryl Bishop is not here, but they've done a wonderful job, and we so appreciate you. Which leaves us with our new board, which also does not need to be voted on. The current board appoints them, and we need you to ratify them, and that will be done by applause too. So we have two new board members. Claudia Wold represents Greenwood. We have Leon, who represents View Ridge, and then plus the other board members that I already announced. So for the board as a whole, would you please give us the acclamation of yay, we're voted. Okay, that was as painless as we could make the voting this year, so thank you. Okay, so as we step into our first speaker, Casey McNerthney, where did you go? You're here somewhere. Hey, Casey, come on up. So I just want to remind you how we kind of run. Oh, Senator Solomon, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out for being late, but we're glad you're here. Thank you very much for coming. That's right, it's great. So probably a lot of you have been to NPAC before. We are always working to have a respectful and solid communication We try to keep our meetings starting on time, failed at that, and we end on time. We'll slip a bit there since we lost it at the top. But please, when you have questions, would you keep them concise? We know that there are stories to be told, but try to keep it confined so that other people can ask their questions too. So with that, I'm going to hand over.
Sounds great. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, everybody. My name is Casey McNerthney. I'm here on behalf of Lisa Mannion, who's the King County Prosecuting Attorney. There's a few things I'm going to go over as an update, and then if there's questions that anybody has or incidents that they want to know about, we'll take those questions at the end. One thing to start with, and this is important to start with just because we're about a block off of Aurora. Just the other day in May, there was a pimp who was sentenced to 32 years for human trafficking. The hard part is there's a lot more work to do. We're not saying that it's mission accomplished, but when you see the type of cruelty that case presented, it was shocking that somebody could be that cruel to other people. And that's what King County prosecutors brought before the judge and asked for that extraordinary sentence. And we appreciate the court accepting that and taking that. You know, we were able to prosecute that case because of the work of Seattle Police, which was great. Without them, we couldn't have brought the loads of evidence that ultimately got that conviction. Another thing that people have asked about is the University of Washington and the arrest there on May 5th, that Monday night when the engineering building was entered. That's still under investigation. That's University of Washington Police that has jurisdiction there. We've had a few good meetings with them, and we anticipate getting case referrals. We don't have those yet, but that doesn't mean that we've forgotten those, or certainly that UW Police has forgotten them. They have not forgotten those. Another thing that I want to bring up is our high priority repeat offender group. These are the prosecutors in our office who handle the everyday crimes that you really don't ever see on the news. Well, not ever, but you rarely see them on the news. The cases like burglaries and home invasions and the car thefts and the routine things that we charge multiple times every day. There was a case just today of a guy who was arrested on Friday for smashing windows at the BECU in South Lake Union and Barry's Boot Camp and one of the Zoom cares. And those are the crimes that aren't going to be a headline on TV or make the Seattle Times in an individual account. But that was charged right away. Again, thanks to Seattle Police getting us that case. He's in jail now on $20,000 bail. There's plenty of cases like that from Aurora and Fremont and Ballard and the U District and the Ave. It's not as many as you hear about, and sometimes people wonder, you know, why are these cases not more prevalent? Why don't we know about them more? Just because you don't see them on the news certainly doesn't mean that they're not happening. And one thing that I want to offer to anybody here, if you have an incident number and you wonder, what the heck's going on with this case? Why haven't I heard something? Or if you see the case continued and you wonder, why is it taking so long? Or why was there a plea agreement here? Or what, you know, for any number of questions that you have, please reach out to us. We'll answer your question on an individual case basis. Because every case that King County prosecutors look at is on an individual basis. One thing that our office brought up, that Lisa brought up, and our team brought up before the county council this morning is the importance of a speedy justice system. And there's Court Rule 3.4 that most people don't know about if you're not in the legal system. And what that means is after, say I were arrested for a felony crime, after I enter a plea, I don't have to go back to court if I authorize my defense attorney to represent me until my trial date or a plea date in most cases. You know, there might be exceptions, but that's why you see 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 continuances. And prosecutors are pushing back on that, but don't always succeed in those arguments. We also don't want to push back too much because then it risks a possible appeal. And there's a number of factors there, but really trying to work with the courts to make a better system. And we've heard the pushback of they don't want defendants to have to come in every single time for every hearing. And we get that, but at least knowing even by Zoom, at least at some point in there that the person is alive, because we've seen people who are dead, who their attorney says, oh, you know, we've been in contact with them, and, you know, we've seen 4 or 5 continuances, but they're actually deceased. And so trying to work through that to get them more, because that's taxpayer money that is really being wasted in the court's time, and ultimately it affects victims. We don't want victims to wait on those things, on those resolutions. So that's one thing that we're working, with defense attorneys, with the courts to try to resolve. There's also, I think, this idea that, and it came up before the county council this morning too, of, what's the difference between a case that is prosecuted and should be prosecuted? And really, personally, I think the answer is the cases that should be prosecuted are prosecuted. There are plenty of other times, though, and this happens every day, unfortunately, where we see cases and there's great work from police and prosecutors believe the victim and know that a crime occurred but can't prove it. And there isn't the idea that we can just take it to a jury even though we don't think we can prove it. A lot of people, the Facebook standard is understandably different than what the law states, and it's really frustrating, particularly like we do when you talk to victims and hear how frustrating it is to not have justice and certainly not have timely justice. But the cases that can be proved are brought before the court and are argued. And I'm sure that some of you have heard of cases and wonder, why the hell was this dismissed? That doesn't make sense. There should be enough here. Anytime that you have a case like that, even if it's a dozen cases or however many you have, if you want to know exactly why a case was charged or why it wasn't, please reach out to us. Whenever we hear those criticisms, it's usually general. And when we have those constructive conversations and say, we'll walk through with you of exactly why we charged this or exactly why we couldn't. And we have those conversations with police too. I think it would be helpful if you ever have a situation like that, even if the case isn't with us and you want to know if it's with the city attorney's office or still under investigation with police or if it's on transit with the sheriff's office, we'll walk through that with you. Lisa Mannion, as the King County prosecutor, had a really great meeting with the new chief, who you're going to hear from this evening, and it was so encouraging. I wish that each of you could have been there. It would have, I think, had the same effect for you that it did for me to realize what a great leader we have here in our new police chief, and the great collaboration and the kind of teamwork and the cooperation. Every day, our office is on the phone not only with SPD but with the city attorney's office, and I think that you'll see those kinds of conversations having a better effect each month as they build on each other. So we're really thankful for that great teamwork from SPD. And if there's any questions now or afterwards, I'll be here. Please, raise your hand. Okay, cool.
Make it a one-year mandatory, no matter what your age is, for carrying a concealed gun without a permit. And also, you constantly hear about somebody killing someone with a gun, and a year or two earlier, they used the gun for something else.
Yeah.
They should say have a very long sentence. Now, I can't see how anyone wouldn't agree with that. Is there any way you can influence the lawmakers to pass laws like that?
We'll certainly try. And to repeat the question is, why does it take someone to actually, shoot somebody to have a meaningful punishment? Like, why does it, when you have an unlawful gun possession, why don't you have at least a year or at least a long sentence or something more substantial than what we have now to send the message that you can't use guns like that, right? You're right about that. One thing that we've seen. Well, yeah, exactly. One of the most frustrating stats that we see around juveniles. Right now, there's 9 kids who are teenagers, who are still kids, charged as adults, who are charged either with murder or first-degree assault, which is the most serious kind of assault, who previously had unlawful gun possession cases. It takes your 5th conviction, which could be, and often is, 5 different guns in 5 different incidents before you go to the state level of juvenile rehabilitation. Before that, it's 0 to 30 days, and very often that's time served. Prosecutors are frustrated by that because that's signaling not only that the punishment is not effective, but it's allowing people to get those guns that they can easily get off the street or from other people, that the sentences don't really matter that much, and that's not the right message. So what King County prosecutors have done is teamed up with lawmakers to try to get that law changed, because we don't want to see kids then murdering other people or hurting themselves, which is inevitable when you don't have an effective solution. We're not saying that we want to lock up kids forever, but we don't want to see more violence. And waiting until the 5th time that you have a gun, that's what we're going to keep doing at our office. And you're right, I mean, really, it's lawmakers who understand this and who I think are reasonable to try to fix it.
Thank you very much, Casey. And I think Casey's going to hang around, so he's available after, but he'll be available if there are questions during. I let him have a little more than 2 minutes because many of you who attend regularly know that we talked about a bill that did not pass in the last session. Representative Davis talked to about it, and we have 2 state leaders here who can maybe take back your concerns if you are concerned about juvenile gun convictions. And with that, I'm just very briefly going to say we are very thrilled to have our new Seattle Police Chief, Shon Barnes, coming to us from Madison, Wisconsin. And that's as much as I'm going to say. You can talk about yourself.
Thank you. So, Madison, Wisconsin, by way of North Carolina. I say that to say, invariably, I will say something that no one will understand. Because some say I have an accent. I don't know. I just think I sound honest. So that's what you're hearing in my voice. But thank you for the opportunity to be here. I have been discovering Seattle and discovering that Seattle does have pollen. So I did not think that would be the case because of the rain. So if my voice cracks a little bit, that's what it is. My admin made me stay home yesterday and take Zooms because I was probably grossing everyone out with coughing and sneezing and whatnot. So she's the best admin ever. So good, yes, she is. So good evening, everyone. My name is Shon Barnes. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to Seattle. I want to talk a little bit about our departmental priorities and more specifically what that means for the North Precinct. First, I began my professional career as a public school teacher. So I was a public school teacher for 4 years, teaching U.S. history in the 9th grade, AP history, and the 10th grade. In 9th grade, I taught world civilization. So I'm a history secondary education major with a minor in pre-law. And so I thoroughly enjoyed my time as a school teacher until tragically I lost a student to gun violence. I won't get into all the specifics of it, but what I realized is that the student who was an A student came to school and the school was his sanctuary. So he got all A's because it was a place that he could come without the influence of what was going on at home. He could study, he can read, he can eat twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, and not be bothered by what was going on. And so people often ask me, how do I feel about officers in schools? I think the program is certainly could be successful if the officers are there for student success. There's a lot that's going on with our kids. And we have to do a better job of identifying their needs. And through my experience, sometimes those school engagement officers are the first one to recognize that maybe something is wrong and provide a resource to get them on the right path so that they don't pick up a gun. Because what we know is that the biggest predictor of violence is what? A preceding case of violence, not poverty. When we see kids escalating, fighting, getting into conflict, that escalates if there's not what? An intervention. And so that's what we or those of us who have worked in the schools work to do, to identify those neighborhood issues and try to work through those. But after I lost my student, I asked my SRO, I said, man, I miss this. This guy comes to my class every day. He sits up front. He gets all A's. He doesn't say almost anything. How did I miss what he was going through? At the end of that conversation, he said, you should be a police officer. I had never thought about being a police officer. Let me tell you, there's not a lot of people, black men, that come from where I come from, that grows up to say, I want to be a cop, let alone be a chief of police. But he said, we need more people who think the way you do. And quite frankly, I thought that everyone in the criminal justice system thought that way. I thought everyone in the criminal justice system was sitting around thinking about what we can do to prevent crime, how we can better serve people, what resources do we need to bring in, and that really wasn't the case. So he thought it was a little different. So I did my research, and I found a book with a chapter in it on this thing called community policing that you all know about. And I said, I want to do that. And the example was a department called Greensboro, which was 4 hours to the west of where I was living, and I was on the beach. Atlantic Ocean, Virginia Beach, Nags Head. I was like living the life as a young single man, but we won't get into that part. But anyway, I applied, got the job, moved 4 hours away from the beach, and the rest is history. I was working, I got an opportunity to be a chief of police in Madison, Wisconsin, which is a great city. If you haven't visited there, you should definitely visit if you get a chance. I think it's Seattle's little sister. They try to copy a lot of things that go on here. And so when I got the opportunity to participate in the process, I thought about it, talked to my kids, talked to my family about it. I have a wife and 3 kids. My oldest is 29. She is a teacher. She's a dancer, so she teaches at the University in North Carolina. And then my middle child is 16, who's like, strict everything. He's like, does this mean change? And he doesn't like change. And I said, well, we'll work it out. And then my youngest, who is 13, she said, Dad, does this mean more money? And I said, I think so. So she said, does this mean more money for me? And I said, probably, and the rest is history. So once they signed off on it, I was full steam ahead. But what really landed me here was my conversation with Mayor Harrell. I have to admit, he really sold me because of his passion for this city and what he wanted for public safety. And he wants people to feel safe in this city, and he wants to restore the city and get rid of some of the crime and disorder that he has seen. And he's given me the tools and the opportunity to do that. So he asked me to come up with my priorities, and what would you prioritize? And this is what we're prioritizing, and this is what the captain of all the precincts, they prioritize. The first thing is crime prevention. Like, we are here to prevent crime, not just to respond to it. In order to do that, what you will see in the North Precinct is you will see proactive patrols during the times that we need to have officers patrolling. And the way we do that is by analyzing when people are calling 911 for help and when people are reporting that a crime has occurred. Not when they discover it, but when it occurs. And so that gives the commanders an opportunity to say, I need resources here or there. Now, we are uplifting our precinct commanders in a way that we haven't done in a long time. They have access to reach across different bureaus in the department and ask for help. So if they need help from Harbor Patrol because they want to lock up Magnuson Park, he has the ability to do that, and they have to be responsive. If he wants, our SWAT team or whoever it may be to do patrols on Aurora or wherever it may be, they have to be responsive to him. The precinct commanders are responsible for your safety. And in order for them to do their job, they have to have access to all parts of the police department, and they have the ability to do that. And if someone doesn't work well with them, then they can elevate it to me, and I'll make sure it happens. So crime prevention is really important. The second thing that we're doing with crime prevention is we're dividing up the things that we see that are important to you. There are certain areas in North Precinct that deserves a little more attention than the others at different times. And we call those priority areas. And so we're trying to measure, if you will, how much police presence, how much community service, how much working with parks and recreation, lights do we need in these areas in order for people to feel safe in order for crime to go down. And then when we do catch bad guys, we work with our prosecutors to ensure that it happens. And he's right. We had an amazing meeting, and we kind of just laid it out. We need help. When people commit crimes and they victimize people, we need them held accountable. We do. I always say that it's the last resort, but the truth of the matter is, when you are victimized and something of yours is gone or someone you love is hurt, people should be held accountable. That's just the truth about it. And they have committed to doing that, and I appreciate them doing it in our meeting. So the second priority that we have is community engagement. We have to, as a police department, listen to the voice of the community and engage all of you as our partners. We're not adversaries. We're not in competition. We are all partners. Sometimes we lead, and sometimes you lead. Sometimes we follow, and sometimes you follow. I want to create a true partnership. I want you to know that this is your police department, and more importantly, I want you to be proud of us. That's just like something that's very important to me. I want you to be proud of your command staff, because I'm certainly proud of them. I want you to be proud of everyone who wears this uniform. And if we know that, then our behavior changes, because we know that people are watching us. We don't want to let you down. We know that when you call about your specific concern, that someone's going to get back to you. We know that when there's something going on in your neighborhood, we have to demonstrate to you what we're doing to fix that problem. And we're going to do that through communication. The third thing that is on everyone's mind is retention and recruitment of police. I say retention first because I want to keep the men and women that we have. And to the police officers who are in this room, who call SPD home, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for the hard work that you put in. Thank you for being a community partner and caring so much about the North Precinct. I want you to see us as partners, and to me that's very, very important. And so that helps us with retention so that they know that they are appreciated. This is tough work, and I always tell cops, I cannot make this job easy. If I told you that, I would be telling something wrong, and I can't do that right now. My job is to make sure that their job is safe and meaningful. What that means is I want each one of these officers to go home the same way they came, but when they go home, I want them to know that they made a difference that day. And I feel like if I do that, I have done my job and done my job very well. Recruitment, we're doing well in recruitment. We're doing very well. I think year to date, we've hired about 68 officers. Last year, this time, it was like 8 or 9. So we're doing very, very well. We're starting to see the applications pick up. We have so many backgrounds that the guys are trying to go through to get the right people in, right? Because it's about not just about quantity, but it's also about quality. We're seeing more diverse groups that are applying and people wanting to be a Seattle police officer from all over the country. We're seeing New York, North Carolina, Atlanta applications or people coming in. So I think the word is out. And so we need your help with that. I need your help with that. If you know someone who you think may want to serve their community, tell them to apply. I always tell people, if you think you might want to do it, then apply. If we call you 2 months later and you don't want to do it, then so be it. But if 2 months later you decide you want to be a cop, you've lost 2 months. And all these other people are ahead of you. So if you're looking for an application, raise your hand. We'll get you. Sir, can we get your application? Anybody? Anybody interested? All right, let me know. I always got to give my pitch because I'm always trying to close. I see that smile. He wants to apply. The fourth thing is employee safety and wellness. We've learned so much about how to take care of ourselves that we didn't have those conversations when I was out there on the street doing work. And so I want to make sure that they feel good so they work good, and that they're not overworked, and that their mind and body is in the right place so that they can serve you, because that's what we want to do. We want to serve the community. And then the last thing before we take questions is we are committed to continuous improvement. There's no police department that's perfect. And if they tell you they are, then you should probably be a little bit weary of that. There's no police chief or commanders or captains that are perfect. But we are committed to being better and doing better each and every day. We are trying to create a department that is known for professionalism and for excellence in everything that we do. And you know, the difference, by the way, are the small things. Those are the things that I think set departments apart. When I was in the Marine Corps, we used to call it attention to detail. Any service people in here other than me? What branch? Army, thank you for your service. Army, thank you for your service. Army, thank you for your service. Right? So they know what we're talking about, attention to detail. And I think that is how we're going to create a police department that, number one, you're proud of. That's very important to me. I want you to be proud of your police department, and I want you to see us as a community partner in this thing that we call crime prevention. So I will leave it at that, and we'll open it up for some questions. Yes, ma'am. I think someone is bringing a microphone to you. Yes, thank you.
Already, I'm already a fan. You took the walk that MLK took. Isn't that true? I read that in your bio.
Yes.
What was that like?
So in 2020, which was kind of rough for everyone, for me, policing down south, we had Confederate statute thing going on. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then we had, protests associated with George Floyd and a little bit of everything. And we had gotten through the summer and things had kind of returned to normal. And two of my buddies, one in Arlington, Texas, the other in California, we all got together and it's like, hey, let's go to Selma, Alabama. And let's go to the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And we went there and we spent the first day at Brown AME Church, which is just on the other side of the bridge, on the Selma side. And we got unfettered access to everything. As a history guy, I loved it. Like from just looking at the podium with all the dots in it from pastors preaching and looking at things and writings and old bulletins from the church. And we got the idea, it's like, well, we're here, let's walk from Selma to Montgomery, which is 54 miles. And so we decided to do that. We had some just cell phone footage, and a friend of mine had a drone, and we just started taking footage, and as people would stop and say, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, hey, we're cops in 2020. Like, we're just in the middle of literally nowhere, by the way. And we're like, yeah, we're cops. And it's, oh, we appreciate what you're doing. And it's, hey, what do you think about what's going on right now? And listening to people talk. And we had people from all walks of life. And they all kind of said the same thing. We want policing. We want good policing. We need policing. We reject this whole idea of defund the police. We reject this whole idea that we don't want police in our communities. We just want y'all to treat us a little bit better. And we took all of that and we turned it into a documentary. We gave it to a filmmaker, and he made a 20-minute documentary for it.
Can we find it on YouTube?
Not yet, because the documentary was turned into a grant from the Department of Justice to turn into a curriculum to teach other police departments how to build relationships with your community. And then when a new administration hit Washington, they took our grant money. So we're trying to finish the curriculum on our own, and that's okay. You can't stop progress, and you can't stop what's right. And so we're going to continue to work on it, and then once we have finished it, we will release it to the general public.
And follow-up question, I read that in your first 100 days, you took 300 community meetings. Is that correct?
They weren't all community meetings. Some of them were meetings with other parts of the criminal justice system. Some of them were internal meetings. Some of them were Zooms. But yeah, 300 meetings.
Wow.
North Precinct is very large and traffic is terrible. And what are your thoughts then about having 2 precinct hubs to make response times better?
Yep, so we're doing a staffing study now. We have a group that's been on for probably about 3 months now, collecting data to do a staffing study. And based on the results of that study, we'll determine whether or not we need to reallocate the police districts or break them up into one district and one sub-district. Obviously, there's a financial cost to that, but we're going to wait and see what the data shows on that. Obviously, by population, North District is a small city, if you will, and so we want to see what we can do with that. I think it is time to I don't know the last time the department actually did a staffing study where you look at reallocations. I will tell you this, in my former life in Madison, we do a staffing study every year. Once you get the tables down, you just have to put in the data. So we do what we call beat allocation every year. So some years precincts get extra people, some precincts lose people, and some, we call them adding beats. And so if his response times are high and his call volume is high, he may get 10 extra people, and another district may lose 2 or 3 to kind of balance it out. We do that absolutely every single year in my old job. But we want to do the bigger staffing study first, and then we'll determine where we need to be.
And I can help over here with questions from this side. Are there questions over here? Could you hold on to the microphone? Carla?
I'll move up a little bit. Okay. I guess my question is, did you or are you familiar with it was a city auditor report that came out in March about what the city's doing to address gun violence? Have you read that? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is about kind of in relation to that. The findings were not positive, so to speak, but one thing they brought up was severe lack of coordination between just departments citywide for gun violence prevention. So my question here is about what are your plans to coordinate across, with SPD, across other city departments for crime prevention?
Yep.
Nathaniel, is the other microphone on?
Oh, sorry. Testing. Oh, yep. So we have our crime plan, which is already out and available. I will be showing it to the public next on the 10th during my confirmation. So you will see how we are working with other agencies. You will see evidence-based policing in that, which was one of the criticisms from the report. You will see how we're working along with other groups, including Department of Neighborhoods, Parks and Rec. So the report really was looking back, I think, but Seattle-centric policing is the name of our new crime plan. And so if you do tune in on June 10th to my confirmation, I have about 15 minutes dedicated to debuting that plan. And then we're going to kind of take the show on the road, and we have 7 community forums throughout the city where we're going to be showing the plan to people. And you'll see the other departments with me as we do that as well. So that is a great question. Thank you.
Rudy, would you be willing to walk partway up the way? Or yell?
I can repeat it if it is.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I can repeat your question. I'll repeat your question.
threatening, whether it's a knife, a bat, a steel metal pipe, or something in a fashion that is going to harm me and others. We call 911, and then we get these texts saying where an officer has not been assigned to the call yet. We've had different times where it's taken up to 6 hours before we get a police response for some of these issues. And you expect us to stick around and wait for an officer? Or is there a better way to say, why don't you just
Okay, Rudy, let's go ahead and let him answer. I understand. Let's let him answer, okay?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat Rudy's question for the folks that are watching. Rudy's question is about response times and calling the police, and why are the response times so long? So a couple of things that I want to start with. So police, we do not do our own dispatch anymore. That was something that was taken from the department, I believe, in around 2020. So when you call 911, you go to a dispatch center. At the moment you're talking to a dispatcher, the police are unaware that you've called. We are only made aware that you called when they dispatch us to a call, when they actually give us a call number over the radio and tell us where to go. There is sometimes a lag in that, but sometimes they are prioritizing those calls based on the severity of those calls. And so if there is no perceived threat, that call could be pushed to a lower priority, and therefore they don't tell us about it until we are now free and clear to go to that call. And depending on how busy we are, that could be an hour or 2 hours later. Now, one of the things that I'm looking at changing, and I've asked my Deputy Chief, Yvonne Underwood, she's already has a meeting scheduled with them to talk about maybe some adjustments to the priority system, and or, as you suggested, some procedural justice where people know, hey, we have this many calls ahead of you and it will be a while. Here's something that you can do so that we can release you, and then someone can get in contact with you later. We also have telephone reporting. We also have online reporting as well, which a lot of people utilize so that they do not have to wait. But you're right, we don't have enough police officers to respond to every call when they call at that particular time. In most cities, no matter where you are, they do a priority dispatch. It's not first come, first serve, unfortunately. And so what I would ask is, if you do call 911 and you do think there's a threat to your life or someone else's life, you try to clearly articulate that as quickly as you can, and then maybe ask some questions about when your call will be dispatched, or is there anything in front of you? Because what I think is happening is people get, unfortunately, an unrealistic kind of view of what's going to happen. You really believe that you're calling, because everyone says, I called the police. Well, you actually didn't. You called the dispatch center, that they have their own set of rules and protocols, and then they tell us when and where to go. Again, we don't control our dispatchers anymore. And so the more information you give, the better priority the call gets, the quicker it gets moved up. But unfortunately, it's not first come, first serve.
Rudy, we have a lot of questions here. I'm going to ask that we move along. We understand there's a lot of frustration. So, Andy, I think you're next.
Thank you. Actually, my question's kind of a follow-up to that. I mean, obviously, we need more officers, and you just mentioned, I think 68 have been hired. When you say hired, what do you mean? Are they in the academy?
Yeah.
Are they on the force, or are they in a precinct?
They're on different stages, because we don't wait for big classes anymore. As soon as we get enough to send to the academy, we do that. So they go to, before the badge, they go to the academy. After the badge, they do training. So they're in various stages. So for example, on last Tuesday, I swore in 12 officers, right? And they can't just go directly, thank you, they just can't go directly to the streets. Right. So they have to go through training. So they're coming out really in waves, and as they come out in waves, we try to plug them, minus what we may have lost that week. We had, I think, 3 or 4 officers this weekend resign. Some had issues, some were battling different things that they could not overcome, and so that number is offset from the officers who leave as well. And so as they come out and they're approved and they pass field training and they say they're good, the captains come to me and say, can I get the first 3? And they're all in line to say, I need the first 3, and we do the best we can with plugging in those holes.
So do you anticipate that, like, of the 68, like, how many would actually become sworn deployable officers?
Of those 68, I would probably say, that's a good question. I don't know what our attrition rate is. To be honest with you, we're not going to keep them all. Just because you can make it through the academy does not mean that you're suited to wear this uniform on a full-time basis. But our rates have been fairly good, I think, right now. I think we're on pace. I want 200 by the end of the year. They tell me we can maybe do 120, 130, but again, it's just doing a little bit more attention to detail. But again, we want to make sure that we have quality officers out there that are ready to do the job and not just someone showing up in a police uniform.
Next question.
Hi, could you talk about retention and recruitment of women officers per the 30-30 plan? And it seems like there's as many women resigning as being hired.
Yeah, those numbers are always kind of up and down. So I want to be clear that 30 by 30 is more than just 30% women on the force. My last department had the highest percentage of women in the country, 28%. But that did not happen overnight. That started back in the 70s with David Cooper, and David just being David, which is just fearless and just challenging the status quo on everything. He created a department where people were welcome. And he did a couple of things that I think are unique that if I did here, it would take a little bit of time. But the first thing he did is for special assignments, that's a 3-year term. So people get a chance to move around the department and do different things, and that attracts a lot of people. And the more you attract, or the more you have women in your department doing successful things, the better you will be. Here's what I always say: you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And so we're trying to show that the department is a place where women can come and do well and thrive. I swore in a female assistant chief that I brought in from the outside today, Nicole Powell. So I have 3 female command staff members, which is probably the most we've ever had in the history of the department. Yay. And I think they're going to do an excellent job, and we're going to put them out there and let the women in the department and everybody else know that Seattle Police Department is a place where you can come and thrive and do well. And so there's a myriad of reasons why people leave the department. I won't get into all of them. Some of them are personal. Sometimes people come to me and they want to talk to me about it, but I'll just kind of leave that to our devices.
Chief, thank you for being here, and I was glad to hear you talk about it was the community policing that brought you to police force. Here in Seattle for many years, for decades, we had our CPT program, our community police team officers. It was an important tool in our communities. I know the only reason why it's not here currently is because of staffing levels. I would request and hope that as we get our staffing back up, that program is one of the first priorities because it was really important for us. But as we live in this current state, we do now have CSOs in the north end. The care team is in the north end. And I would love for the city to really take a look at geographically tethering some of those departments to our communities as well, in the absence of not having a CPT officer in that program, because I think it is really important that public safety is it's a getting your feet on the streets, understanding the differences in each community. So it's a request more than a question.
What's your name?
My name is Pete.
Pete, have you been looking at my notes?
No, I have not.
Okay. I'm not going to say because there will be an announcement coming a little later, and I won't say, but this is what I will say. I hear what you're saying, and stay tuned.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Other questions over here? Yes.
Hi, thank you for being here. I don't like microphones. Okay, good. So Seattle has a tendency to walk all over itself, and the police officers are the first one to be thrown under the bus, whether it's by our mayoral office or by our city council. And I know that you said that you have a great rapport with Bruce Harrell. what are you doing, and I know that's kind of the honeymoon period, but what are you doing to ensure that that doesn't happen again? Because it's really unfortunate for our police officers to constantly be thrown under the bus, for us to lose chief of police, to have council members who are suing our police for various reasons. So,
Yeah, I recently wrote something to our department on the 5-year anniversary of the George Floyd death. And I spoke about this issue that you just talked about. And what I said was very simple, is that, you know, we are public servants. That's it. But for some reason, during that time period, the leaders, those in power, those with power, those yielding power, blame the servants. And it's something very, very wrong when leaders blame the servants for all the problems. And I think that hopefully we are past that. And then, but there is something powerful in being a servant, right? And so, you know, I quoted from my favorite book, and I don't want to misquote it because he's the pastor in here, but I'll just leave that. But you know what my favorite book in Matthew says about the servants, correct? Do y'all know? I'll tell you later.
No, it's fine. You go ahead.
I don't want to get in trouble by quoting scripture, because then I got to take up an offering. So, I'm Baptist. We take up an offering for everything. I better be quiet before I get in trouble.
We have another question. Somebody's already asking. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rick. I grew up over here in North Seattle. John Rogers, Jane Addams, Nathan Hale, I walked all 3 of them. So I want to welcome you to Seattle in the Northwest.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm kind of like a broken record. I wouldn't be here except for the house I've had for 20 years now is over here on 102nd. It's ironic to me that this is taking place here on 105th. It has gotten so out of control. I had some hope when the soap thing was passed, and before I would ask Seattle police officers, could you just come down 102nd and let them know that you're here? And they go, no, the city council told us not to touch them, you know, we can't do anything. So now it seems to have gotten worse. I took this photo yesterday afternoon, and this is what every day, if my house were 1 block further away, I would not be in the middle of that. So it's gotten worse, and how you can ask us, you know, like, to be good citizens when there's people standing like basically naked out in the street, just taunting the traffic. It is just incredibly dehumanizing. This I took Sunday morning when I went out to get my newspaper. There are 3 prostitutes in 3 pimp cars, all right over here on 102nd. And so the other thing I want to point out is what really shook me up was the video that caused the closing of 101st, this massive gang shootout. So now there's a cement block there. It's like a war zone. And the other thing was the details of Winston Burt, the extremeness of what is going on right over there on Aurora with, you know, prostitutes being tattooed, 20-year-olds kidnapped and beaten. And because most people don't live right by it, they don't really see it. So
let's let him go ahead and respond.
I'm trying to be
now.
optimistic, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, optimism isn't easy, right? But, you know, the problem has been going on for a long time, I gotta be honest with you. And it is a market, right? And if you study microeconomics, you know that drug markets, vice markets, they all work on supply and demand. And so we have to work on both sides. We have to work on those people who come down Aurora looking to exploit people, and then those people who are being exploited, we have to deal with them as well. We need more social services, I think, down there to help. Usually it's the police doing some type of operation, and we try to bring in people with us, but quite frankly, it has to be sustained. It has to be done over and over and over again. I know that the captain is committed. We were having a conversation today at our ComStat, CStat meeting, and he was just throwing ideas out about how we can use certain technologies and things that we have in order to make better arrests, make better convictions, and we're gonna explore some of those things. Some of those things may be uncomfortable, but it is an economy. And so a lot of the rules do not allow us to, we can arrest some of the girls or whoever is selling, but again, they go back out there, and even though they have the stay away order, they are beholding to these people who are, like you use your word, the pimps or whatever you want to call them, procurers, whatever, and we have to get them in custody as well and get major time like the one over here. And that word will spread a little bit too. But it has to be sustainable, and we're doing the best we can. But again, it is a market, just like anything else, unfortunately. It's just an illegal one.
I have a question. I'm going to slip one in.
Oh, yes.
Casey earlier brought up the fact that there's problems with how many times a juvenile can have a gun and still be out on the streets. And we heard earlier in one of our meetings this year from Representative Davis about a law hoping to try and change that. Well, you have some state representatives here and some city council members, and I'm wondering if you've already identified any specific things you would like to see change about our state or city laws.
I think it's too early for me to start answering those questions because I don't know the origin of some of that. Obviously, coming from two different states where I was certified, the rules they change, they get progressively different everywhere you go. But I want to be clear. I don't think that jail is a place for kids. I don't. I don't think anyone is the sum of their worst day. I don't. But I do believe that if we don't have anything that's going to get people on the right path, then what are we doing with the justice system? It's supposed to be rehabilitative. It's supposed to be punitive. It's supposed to set an example for other people. And punishment has always been overvalued as an indicator of change. And what we know about punishment is that if it's not swift, certain, or severe, it doesn't work. And I don't think anyone would describe the criminal justice system in America as being swift, certain, and severe when you can continue cases so long that the suspect is dead and his lawyer don't know about it. So I think we have to redesign the criminal justice system so that the first time this kid is caught with a gun, we figure out why he's carrying it in the first place and hold everyone responsible for putting it in his hand. I navigated a school shooting before I came to Seattle in December of 2024, December 16th to be specific and exact. When a 13-year-old walked into the Abundant Life Christian School and murdered 2 people, including a substitute teacher who had just moved to Madison from Seattle. I don't know if y'all know that or not. And a 13-year-old. And so I am totally against kids having guns because they do not have the mental capacity to understand the destructive power of them. And if it's getting in kids' hands, we got to figure out why and start holding some people accountable. I'll say this too. A lot of kids get guns from, anybody want to finish that sentence? No. Unlocked cars and car break-ins. People leaving their guns in their glove compartments, underneath the seats of their cars, and they're out prowling cars, is what we call it here, pulling on door handles, and then they get lucky. Your car is not a gun safe. It is the worst gun safe. So if you have one, or your neighbors, or your friends, or whoever, you cannot leave that gun in your car overnight unattended, at any time. You either need to hide it, lock it in your trunk, underneath your tire somewhere, in a lockbox, or take it in your house. I would prefer it not be in your car, because what else are they going to get when they're pulling on those car doors, when they're prowling for cars? Loose change? Most stores don't even take cash anymore. They're not going to get anything like a 55-inch TV because that's not going to be in your car. They're looking for your weapons, and they know that people keep their weapons in their cars. So please lock your cars. That helps. And then number 2, remove your valuables, including your firearms. Would you agree with that, Cap? 100%. All right. So I know that Cap talked about some stats. So
Okay, but let's wrap up. I think since we're in your church,
It's not my church. This is definitely God's church. So, number one, thank you for being here and what you guys do. I'm very encouraged listening to you. Your candor and clarity is really important, and thank you for that. Can you speak to a little bit about how I know officers arrive at citizens' worst day often, and there's a lot of trauma that goes on with that with the officers, and you're saying that part of your hope is for officers' health. And so can you speak to how you're keeping their health, and might I suggest part of that includes spiritual health?
It is part of it. So we have these flyers that you see kind of hanging around. So we have a wellness unit with Dr. Who, and she has heard me clearly. Like, the health of the officers is important. That's spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and financial health of our officers. And so things that I have experienced throughout the course of my career that's helped me out is a chaplain program. And I'm happy that we have one here because I wasn't allowed to do that in Madison. They threatened to sue me every single time I even tried to partner with a religious organization. They wanted to partner with us. And so I couldn't do that there, but I'm glad that we have a wonderful chaplain program here. Financial health. When I first started to buy my first house as a young cop, the department put on a how to buy a house seminar. And I didn't know anything about that. Some of y'all probably know all about it, but I didn't. And as a young 25, 26-year-old kid, I felt like they were investing in me. And so they had people to come and show you what to do. And they weren't trying to sell me anything. They were trying to help me with my financial health, estate planning, life insurance, all of that stuff. And then physical health and then mental health. The officers know, we got EAP and more than that, peer support. All you have to do is snap your fingers or talk to a supervisor, and someone will be there shortly to kind of attend to your needs. And I think that's very important. We have to do that because that's not something that we always used to do. It was kind of, get over it and get on to the next call, right? Somebody's waiting for you to answer the call, right? You just go there. And so we're trying to do more debriefs, more mindfulness, if you will, so that officers can be their best self when they do go to the call. Doesn't matter how quick we get there. If we get there, we can't service you correctly.
thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate you being here. Captain Davisson, you're on. Thank you.
So I normally start with stats, but I'm not going to do that today. I just want to talk about the police officers that are working in North Seattle. They're working so hard. Some of the things that we're doing right now, when I first got to the precinct, we had one officer or one person that could drive the mobile precinct, which is a very large vehicle. You need a special license to do it. And Lieutenant Haynes had a good idea to get more people trained up on that. We actually have, I believe, 16 officers now that are trained up on driving the MP. And that MP mobile precinct has been moved around Seattle, north end of Seattle, several times in the last several weeks. Today it was out at the Magnuson boat launch. Before that it was at University District. It's been down in Lake City, and I know it's been in Golden Gardens. So in addition to that, we're having officers go out on bikes whenever we have additional staffing. A lot of that is being done on overtime, just because the officers that we do have coming to the shift are answering those 911 calls. So to do some more proactive enforcement and try to get some more visibility out there, we're trying to get officers both on bikes as well as the mobile precinct out and about. So we're doing that as much as possible. We have a lot of units, not just patrol units. Again, they're answering your 911 calls, trying to go from priority call to priority call as best as they can. So the chief mentioned reaching out to other units and asking for assistance, which I've done multiple times. And I continue to do it, and I'll keep on screaming for it as much as possible. But we have our community response group that's been up here. Last month they arrested a pimp and impounded their vehicle as well. I say pimp, sex trafficker. And ultimately searched the vehicle, and he was booked. I don't know if he was charged. I'd have to follow up with the prosecutor's office, but I believe he was. In addition to that, we've had our vice unit out here multiple times. They're up here at least once or twice a month. They're doing operations on Aurora related to the patronizing prostitution law, and they're trying to find ways that patrol as well as our undercover units can influence impact some of the concerns that you've been having. So I know over the last month they've arrested 14 people that I know of that were charged for patronizing a prostitute. So that's kind of some of that follow-up work. In addition, we have our General Investigations Unit, GIU. They were up here yesterday or the day before, up at Ulta doing organized retail theft arrests. They arrested several people related to large thefts and large organized, basically stealing a bunch of stuff and then selling it. So they're working very hard as well. We have our project officers, Mike and Terry. Terry's for the east side of I-5 and Mike is for the west side of I-5. They're the officers that when you send me an email or you send somebody at the precinct an email asking for assistance on a problem that's more long-term, that needs a little bit more attention, I reach out to them and I ask them to reach out to you and address those concerns. They have, again, our patrol officers are going call to call. They have the time, a little bit more time to sit down with you, figure out what's going on, what the issues are, and how can we get resources to address those concerns. And I know Pete has had high praise of Mike for many years now. Direct phone line, I believe. Most people do. One of the things that I tasked Mike with along Aurora here, I noticed when I first got here there was a ton of graffiti, a lot of vandalism. There were some vacant properties as well. So I tasked him with working with our SDCI, not ours, but the city's Seattle Department of Contracts and Inspections. Did I get that right? Construction and Inspection, thank you. They work with the vacant properties and make sure that they're following the rules, making sure that their property is boarded up, that if there's graffiti or garbage that's on the property, they go and they find out who the owner is, they reach out to that owner, and they make sure that they're keeping up their property. So if you've noticed, and it's kind of a continual project for them, but there are several businesses that had extensive graffiti on them along Aurora. A lot of them, the vast majority of them now, have been cleaned up. So I know that there was a significant one directly across the street from Lowe's on Aurora. That one was completely painted over. When I got here, it was graffiti, the entire building. Recently, it was all painted. I just noticed the other day, yep, there's 2 new tags on it, so I tasked Mike already, and he has already he's done the find it, fix it, and he works with our UCT as well as SDCI to get that handled as soon as possible. In addition, if you see any like tents or anything that start popping up in areas, he works with the UCT, our Unified Care Team, as well to try to address those concerns. They come out, provide services, and try to get them resources, and then if they don't move, they have them move along. So those are some of the things that Mike's doing. Patrol give you, and I talked about going to the calls, but they're also doing as much proactive work as possible. When we have additional officers, we have overlap days where we have more officers. They're tasked, or we've tasked sergeants to come up with projects, find ways that we can do proactive enforcement, whether or not it's Aurora, Lake City, University District, down at Magnuson, over in Ballard. Come up with projects, ways that we can do proactive enforcement, high visibility, things like that. So we have officers that are doing, again, bike patrols, some undercover kind of plainclothes details as well, and then using arrest teams to come in and make arrests. So that's pretty significant. Also, traffic enforcement. I heard traffic was one of the main concerns in this area. We do have an increased traffic officer presence along Aurora right now, specifically tasked with addressing as many concerns as they can along Aurora. I know I get a lot of the issues and the complaints regarding people speeding along Aurora or using the bus lanes to pass people, things like that. So that's what our traffic patrol is out trying to enforce at this point in time. So other than that, I will open it up to questions. Yep.
Can you come closer? Sorry, I'm corded. Thank you.
Sure. Hello. I'm from Mexico. I grew up there. Today in the morning, I was notified that there was an incident on my kids' school. It's the second one that has happened within a month. I don't want to throw the school under the bus. I have just talked very briefly with them, and I just don't know who to ask or where to get more information. They said they follow a police report. So I just want to ask, how do I get more informed about these kinds of incidents with the police? How can I follow up when they happen? And what else can I do as a concerned parent of like issues happening on my kid's school?
So I didn't hear the first part. I was having difficulty. I don't know if it was the traffic.
I'm from Mexico. The point I wanted to do there is I actually don't know how things work here.
Sure.
So I just want to learn and see what we can do because I am very concerned.
About how to...
There was a couple of incidents on my school, on my kids' school. One of them was they burned like a little library. Today, the communication wasn't very clear. It seems that there was someone grabbed a stolen car and started like pooping the gas out of it. I don't know if it was just for stealing it, given that the little library burning happened like a month ago. I would have concerns that if they trying to burn the car, but I don't know what happened at the school.
So siphoning gas out of a car, is that what I heard out of a stolen car?
Vandalism, I think.
Yeah,
Things that one thing was burned.
Yeah, one thing was burned, and the other one, like someone stole a car, put it there, siphoned gas out of the car. At the school parking lot. That's what the email said.
And so your question is, how do you get more information about that? Or
Yeah,
how
I
you...
would like to know how do I get more information for those incidents, and what else can I do, because it's...
Sure. So the first thing, it sounded like it was like a school alert. I get those, I have kids in school, and I get school alerts when something's happening at the school. Is that what you're talking about initially?
No, it was off school hours.
Okay.
One was on a Sunday, the other was today, 6 a.m., 5 a.m.
Sure.
Right.
So if you have specific information, one, our project officers can look that up and get you information on that, or at least details on it. Mm-hmm. If you have any information about the crime, you can always report that to 911. You can come to the precinct during our normal business hours, the Monday through Friday, during our normal I think we start at 11, so Second Watch staffs our precinct lobby there, so when we have the staffing to do that. And then again, 911, or if you reach out to these guys, either one of these guys right after the meeting, they can absolutely help you out.
Thank you.
You bet.
Can I just follow up? Is your lobby
Please.
open now?
What's that?
Is your lobby open now?
So we do have our lobby. It's not open. You still get buzzed in.
Yes.
But yeah, Monday through Friday when we have the staffing, which is almost all the time now for Monday through Friday. And it's for Second Watch, right? So Second Watch starts at 11 a.m. and it goes to about 7 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So, and it's not necessarily always open, but we try our best to staff it.
That's a great improvement. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the plan to further integrate the care team, because it's my understanding that they're being underutilized right now.
Yeah, so right now I think that I would defer a little bit of that, but I'll talk about what I know. So I do know that there is an agreement, an MOU, that allows Care Team to work with SPD. One of the concerns with Care Team and SPD is that the Care Team is not armed, right? They're not, so they cannot go to what they call high acuity incidents. We get dispatched to the high acuity incident. So if you have somebody that's in extreme mental crisis or some kind of, crisis situation, SPD will get dispatched first. Once SPD determines that there's no longer a threat or the threat level can be mitigated by us. In other words, we can stand by, call the Care Team, and then, do like a handoff to the Care Team where they can spend more time with that person, and then we can go on to the 911 calls. So that's how it's currently used. I do know that they can't necessarily go out directly to calls until they're determined that they're safe to go to, if that makes sense. So that may change in the future, I don't know, but that's how it's currently being used. And we do have the Care Team is currently at the North Precinct. They're directly across the street working with us, and they are integrated with us. They come to our roll calls occasionally and give us talks about what they can do for us, and I do hear calls for the Care Team and the CSOs frequently on the radio. So. I believe that the mayor's goal is to have more Care Team throughout the city of Seattle. So it is not the Seattle Police Department, right? It's the mayor's, the mayor created the Care Team, and that department, it's a completely separate department, but it's integrated with us, if that makes sense.
Okay, is there anyone else who hasn't asked a question yet? Sorry, we only have about a couple minutes left.
No worries.
Yes.
I think this is more of a suggestion. My husband and I are the pastors at Seattle Foursquare. You probably don't know where that is, but everyone knows where the rickshaw is, so we're right next to the rickshaw. One of the things that we hear here often is call 911. So those of us who are in this room know to call 911, but it's really easy to get complacent out there and not call 911. Not too long ago, there was a shooting that kind of was in Seattle Foursquare, rickshaw down the street, and several shots were fired. The next day, a lot of the neighbors came out, and it was investigated. The police came out. They did a great job. But while we were out there, another neighbor from further down the street came by and said, yeah, our house got hit twice. So they actually had bullets lodged in their house, but they didn't call 911 because they were like, well, we figured they already knew. But what the police didn't know is how far down the shooting had continued down the road. And so we encouraged him to call. My comment is this, is that how do we get out to the community at large that they still need to call 911? Because we know this is so critical for you guys knowing what's happening out there, but people just get complacent and they're not doing it. And I've already had a conversation with someone in here who said, I don't even know when to call 911 anymore. So.
Yeah, I know that our officers push that out all the time. I know our community, our crime prevention coordinators, our project officers, we all talk about it all the time. If you don't report it, we don't know what's happening. You hear the chief talking about that we're data driven, right? In other words, we try to get resources to the areas that need it. And if you don't report it, we don't know that you need it. So if there is bullet damage in one area, and it also helps solve crimes, right? If we know that you had a shooting at one area and somebody else had it in another area, well, you might not have video here, but there might be video down the block where the shooting started. So if we don't know to check there, it makes it difficult to solve crimes, right? So your question on how do we get more people, I mean, we're trying the best that we can to put it out to people, but I think that that's also messaging for larger than Seattle. I don't know if we can push it out as a media push as well.
So we're gonna wrap up now. But that's actually a great point to end on because yes, call 911. And I would go further and I say it was actually an active media campaign for several years to tell people don't call 911. So a lot of Seattleites in the past got told don't call, they can't come out, it's too busy, only call for the critical things. And now changing that message is really going to require a heavy lift that's bigger than you guys. So
Yeah, I think a lot of that was that we had alternate ways to report, which we do. We have online reporting, but for the serious stuff, for life safety, for you know, car prowls, burglaries, things like that, you can still call 911, and it does help us track everything. And we do track all types of crime.
And I think the message we've all heard if you attend NPAC is always call 911. Let them decide. Just always call 911. So that is a great message to end on. And we would love to see a great campaign on crime prevention and such. And yes, thank you. I remembered now, we do have someone here who I'm going to call out. He's going to be out in the lobby, I think, after we're done. Jeff Silverman wants you to know that he is a volunteer with the Seattle Hub Emergency Management Group, who are all here to try and help us be safe when the big one comes. So this fellow here with his hand in the air is going to be in the lobby. If you'd love to volunteer, it's actually kind of fun. You should do that. So got in your pitch. Thank you. So thank you all very much. It's great to have the in-person event. And I think I can say those of us who participate in North Precinct Advisory Council do so because we believe in having great policing. We know we need you, and we do appreciate you, and we want more of you, and excellent. So thank you. Our next meeting is in September. We don't meet in July or August, so Wednesday, September 3rd. We hope that if Pastor Keith thinks we've been nice little model citizens, that he'll let us come back here again on the 3rd. And also want to remind you, our very fun event that we do every summer, Night Out, is on the first Tuesday of August every year, August 5th this year. If you want to close your street, you can go online now and do your application and get your confirmation. My street's already done it. And so with that, we hope you have a wonderful summer. Stay safe, and thank you all for coming.